Let's be real for a moment. One of the most painful things for a woman isn't rejection, jealousy, or even betrayal. It's realizing that she doesn't truly value the man she's with, or worse, that she's wasting her energy on someone who doesn't respect himself enough to make her feel appreciated. That might sound controversial, but it's one of the harshest truths in relationships. When a woman senses a man's worth, it sets the tone for how connected and emotionally invested she becomes. If she doesn't feel it, no amount of flirting, texting, or romantic gestures will fix it. Here's the thing. Many men don't understand how women experience value. Women don't just want attention. They want respect, consistency, and the feeling that the man they're with has standards and boundaries. When a woman realizes she isn't valued, it hits her harder than almost anything else. It's not always about words. It's about energy. It's about presence. It's about the way a man shows up, or fails to show up, for himself and for her. And when that energy is missing, it creates frustration, disappointment, and often quiet detachment. Most men make the mistake of assuming that love or attraction alone keeps a woman engaged, but women are wired differently. Emotional connection is built on mutual respect and perceived value. When she senses that you're not holding yourself to a standard, when she notices you overextend, chase too hard, or compromise your identity, she loses respect and interest more than you realize. That gap, that absence of perceived value, is what hurts her emotionally the most. In this video, we're going to explore exactly what triggers that pain, why women react the way they do when they feel unvalued, and what men can do to change the dynamic. This isn't about blaming women or pretending men are perfect. It's about understanding the emotional mechanics at play so you can build stronger, healthier connections and avoid unintentionally hurting her by allowing her to feel overlooked or undervalued. Welcome to the channel today. We're going to dive deep into one of the most overlooked truths in dating and relationships. What really hurts a woman when she doesn't feel valued, and how you can flip the script. 1. She feels the gap before you do. One of the hardest things for a woman is sensing that a man doesn't fully value her, but she often notices it before he even realizes it himself. Men tend to think that as long as they show up, text, or make gestures, everything is fine. But women pick up on subtler signals, and when something feels off, it creates a quiet but deep emotional pain. She might not call it out. She might even act normal on the surface, but inside, she knows there's a gap between what she deserves and what she's getting. Imagine this. You're dating a woman, you spend time together, and everything seems fine on the surface. But you're inconsistent, sometimes texting, sometimes disappearing for days. You don't fully engage emotionally or show her she matters. You're juggling your own priorities, sure, but without awareness of how your energy affects her. She starts noticing. She feels that your attention isn't reliable, that your care isn't consistent, and that you don't fully respect her time or feelings. That sensation, the sense that she's not valued, is subtle but sharp. It lingers. It hurts her emotionally in ways you may never hear about directly. The key here is awareness. Women are constantly scanning for authenticity, stability, and emotional investment. They notice small things, your tone in conversation, the effort you put into plans, the consistency of your actions, how present you are when you're together. When these things fall short, it's a silent alarm for her. She may internalize it, question her worth, or begin withdrawing emotionally. And if this continues, the connection begins to erode before you even know what happened. This is why a man's self-respect and awareness are so important. She doesn't just need words. She needs actions that match them, energy that shows she matters, and attention that reflects her value. The moment she senses a gap, her respect and emotional investment decline. By understanding that she feels these gaps long before we do, you start seeing why maintaining consistent value through your presence, actions, and emotional steadiness is so crucial. It's not about perfection, but about being intentional with the way you show up. When you're aware of her perception and invest thoughtfully, you prevent that quiet hurt and keep the emotional connection strong. 2. Why lack of value cuts deeper than words? One thing men often misunderstand is how deeply women feel when they don't sense value in a relationship. It's not about missing a text or forgetting a date. It's about the energy you bring or fail to bring into her life. Words alone cannot make up for the absence of respect, attention, or consistency. A woman can hear, "I care about you 100 times." But if your actions show otherwise, those words lose all meaning. When she feels undervalued, it cuts deeper than anything verbal. She notices patterns over time. Small dismissals, lack of attentiveness, prioritizing other things over her, or failing to maintain emotional consistency. These aren't dramatic moments. They're subtle, everyday signs that tell her she's not as important to you as she should be. And the longer these patterns continue, the more it hurts. Women are wired to pick up on these emotional nuances, often before men even realize they exist. A man's behavior sets the emotional tone of a relationship. If you're inconsistent, reactive, or overly preoccupied with your own life, without including her in meaningful ways, she begins to feel secondary. It's not about controlling her or trying to manage her feelings. It's about understanding that your investment communicates value. When she senses a lack of investment, she experiences a sense of loss, disappointment, and quiet frustration. These feelings don't always surface immediately, but they accumulate, creating a subtle emotional distance. Many men also underestimate how much women notice nonverbal cues. A distracted look, a delayed response, or seeming disinterest communicates far more than words ever could. When these signals are repeated, she feels ignored, unappreciated, and emotionally hurt. She may mask it with politeness, humor, or even increased attention to test your care, but underneath, it stings. The solution isn't to overcompensate or try to impress her constantly. It's about being consistent, present, and intentional with your energy. Show up fully when you're with her. Listen, respond thoughtfully, and make her feel prioritized without losing yourself in the process. Women value men who demonstrate self-respect and stability because it reassures them that their emotional investment is safe. When that value is missing, it hurts more than any words could express. 3. The subtle ways she notices disrespect. Respect in a relationship isn't always about big gestures or dramatic moments. Most of the time, it shows up in subtle ways, and women notice these details faster than most men realize. Disrespect isn't always verbal. It can be found in your tone, your body language, your availability, or the way you prioritize your time. These small signals quietly tell her how much or how little you value her, and when they're missing, it hurts her more than words ever could. Women are naturally observant. They notice if you dismiss her opinions, interrupt her when she's speaking, or make decisions without considering her feelings. Even things that seem minor to you, like checking your phone constantly while she's talking or canceling plans last minute, can communicate disrespect. She senses that her time, her thoughts, and her presence are not as important to you as they should be. And that perception, more than anything, damages her emotional connection to you. Another subtle way she notices is how you treat her boundaries. A man who ignores her limits, pressures her to do things she's uncomfortable with, or disregards her feelings demonstrates a lack of regard for her as a person. She might not confront you directly every time, but she feels it. That feeling grows quietly, creating frustration, disappointment, and emotional distance. Women respond to this with reduced openness, less trust, and sometimes withdrawal, because emotional safety is tied directly to perceived respect. Even seemingly positive actions can backfire if they're not genuine. Over-flattering, excessive attention, or constant reassurance can feel hollow if she senses you're compensating for insecurity rather than truly valuing her. Women pick up on authenticity, and when your behavior doesn't match your intent, it creates tension. Disrespect, therefore, doesn't always come from hostility. Sometimes it comes from absence, inconsistency, or insincerity. The key takeaway is simple. Women notice the little things. Your words mean little if your actions don't reinforce them. Respect is built into how you consistently show up, how you communicate, and how you honor her as a person. When she senses a lack of value, no amount of charm or promises can fix it. Her emotional hurt comes from these subtle cues long before any obvious conflict arises. 4. How your energy determines her connection. A woman's emotional connection isn't just built on what you say or do. It's built on the energy you bring into the relationship. Your presence, confidence, and stability send signals she picks up on instantly. If your energy is inconsistent, distracted, or low value, she feels it, and it impacts how invested she becomes. Women are intuitive. They respond to the way a man carries himself, not just his words. Think about energy as the underlying message you communicate without realizing it. Are you calm, confident, and grounded, or anxious, reactive, and insecure? Women sense both, and they respond accordingly. A man who maintains his composure, who is consistent in his attention, and who holds his boundaries, communicates strength and respect, qualities that naturally draw a woman in. On the other hand, a man who overreacts to small issues, chases attention, or lacks focus, communicates neediness, and that subtly undermines the connection. Energy also dictates emotional availability. Women need a man whose energy reassures them that he can handle life's ups and downs without needing constant validation. If she senses that her presence is carrying the weight of your emotional state, she feels the imbalance immediately. That imbalance creates frustration, resentment, and emotional distance, even if she doesn't say it out loud. Another aspect is consistency. Women notice when your energy fluctuates depending on your mood, circumstances, or convenience. One day you're attentive and present, the next day distant and distracted. This roller coaster of energy makes her feel insecure about her emotional investment. She begins to question whether her effort is worth it and may withdraw as a protective response. 5. When your absence speaks louder than presence. One of the most powerful truths in relationships is that absence often reveals more than presence ever could. Women feel a man's value not just in how he shows up, but also in how he holds himself when he's not around. Men often think that being constantly available is proof of care, but the reality is that too much availability can actually diminish perceived value. A woman notices when a man doesn't rely on her to validate himself, and that absence can hit her harder than words ever would. Imagine this. You've been dating a woman for a few months, and you're used to regular texting, calls, and weekend plans. One week, life gets busy. You focus on work, your hobbies, and your friends. You don't chase her attention, you don't over-communicate, and you continue living fully. At first, she might not comment on it. She may even act casual. But internally, she begins noticing your absence. She realizes she misses your presence, starts thinking about the moments you usually share, and feels a subtle void. That feeling? That's her emotional recognition that you're a significant part of her life. This absence does something men rarely anticipate. It clarifies your value. When you're always present, women may unconsciously take your attention for granted. They enjoy it. but they don't fully grasp what it means to them emotionally. When you step back and focus on your own priorities, you allow her to experience the gap. She begins to feel what it would be like without you, and that awareness triggers genuine appreciation and investment. It's also important to understand the balance. Absence isn't about playing games or being deliberately distant. It's about maintaining your self-respect, prioritizing your life, and not overextending yourself to prove worth. A woman senses authenticity. And when your absence is genuine rather than manipulative, it communicates strength and independence. That, in turn, makes her feel the emotional impact of your presence in a real way. 6. The real reason. She pulls away. One of the most confusing things for men is when a woman seems interested one moment and distant the next. Many men take it personally or assume she's losing feelings, but the truth is often deeper. Women pull away not because they don't care, but because they are evaluating the emotional balance in the relationship. They are testing whether the man values himself, maintains boundaries, and demonstrates consistent energy, qualities that directly affect how much she invests emotionally. Women need to feel security and respect, not control. If they sense that a man's emotional state is dependent on their attention, they instinctively pull back. This isn't manipulation, it's self-preservation. They want to invest in someone who has his own life, who stands firm in his worth, and who doesn't rely on them to feel complete. Pulling away allows them to gauge the true nature of the relationship and how much the man values himself. Another reason she may distance herself is to test boundaries. A woman unconsciously observes whether a man respects her needs while also maintaining his own standards. If she notices a man bending too easily, overextending, or compromising his principles just to keep her close, she loses respect. When respect declines, emotional connection fades, and she naturally pulls away. On the flip side, when a man demonstrates self-respect, confidence, and emotional stability, she feels safe to lean in and invest more deeply. It's also important to recognize that women respond to energy, not words. A woman can hear, "I care about you," and still feel distant if the underlying energy says otherwise. When she senses inconsistency, uncertainty, or low-value behavior, she pulls back to protect herself. The distance she creates is a signal, not a punishment. It's her way of evaluating whether the relationship is worth her emotional energy. 7. Stop giving her less than she deserves. Here's a reality many men don't want to face. If a woman feels undervalued, it's often because you've allowed it to happen. Men unintentionally give less than they should, less attention, less respect, less consistency, and wonder why she starts pulling away or losing interest. The hard truth is that if you want a woman to truly value you, you need to start by valuing yourself and showing up fully. Many men confuse availability with value. They think being constantly present or saying yes to everything will make a woman invest more. But in reality, over-availability signals neediness, not strength. Women notice when a man's emotional state depends on their approval. That imbalance lowers her respect and makes her emotionally withdraw. True attraction is created when a man stands firm in his worth, maintains his priorities, and doesn't bend over backward to earn attention. Another mistake men make is inconsistency. Showing interest one day and being distant the next creates confusion. She starts questioning your intentions and your value. Women feel safety and connection through predictable, reliable energy. When that energy is missing, she feels hurt, even if she doesn't confront you directly. Respect and emotional investment decline quietly but steadily. Let's also be honest about effort. Small gestures matter only when they are genuine and consistent. A one-time grand gesture can't make up for weeks of inattentiveness. Women are wired to notice authenticity. When your actions don't match your words, she senses it instantly. This is why many relationships fail silently. The man thinks he's showing care, but the woman feels undervalued because his presence doesn't align with his intentions. Here's the constructive criticism. If you're reading this and realizing you've given less than she deserves, it's time to wake up. Step back and reflect on how you show up emotionally. Are you consistent? Are you present? Do your actions match your words? Are you maintaining your own boundaries and life outside of her? These are the things that build true value in a relationship. Here's a truth that might make some men uncomfortable. Women feel hurt the most. Not when you argue with them or disappoint them in big ways, but when they sense that you don't value yourself enough to show up fully for them. That quiet recognition that you're giving less than you're capable of hurts more than anything else because it directly impacts their emotional security and connection with you. Understanding this is a game changer. Women respond to authenticity, consistency, and presence. Words alone don't cut it. Your actions, energy, and self-respect are what truly communicate value. When a woman senses that you prioritize your life, maintain your boundaries, and act with intention, she feels respected, safe, and emotionally drawn to you. Conversely, when she senses inconsistency, neediness, or low-value behavior, it quietly eats away at her respect and emotional investment. The controversial truth is simple. The moment you stop undervaluing yourself, she stops undervaluing you. You don't have to chase, beg, or overcompensate. You simply need to show up as a man who knows his worth and lives it consistently. That energy alone changes the dynamic and makes her emotionally invested in a genuine way. Now I want to hear from you. Share your experiences in the comments. Moments when a woman pulled away or felt hurt because you weren't showing your value, or times when your presence made her appreciate you more. I read every comment and will engage with you directly. Let's create a space to learn from each other and grow in how we show up in relationships. Remember, the most powerful thing you can do in any relationship is show her and yourself your true value.